Radical.
The NBA I regularly follow. It's been really interesting here lately. A lot of things going on, especially in the West. The West is stacked with amazing teams. But right now, one of those amazing teams is not the Golden State Warriors. Mostly it's because they don't have Klay Thompson, of course. But even if they had Klay, yeah, they'd be one of the better teams, but I don't know. Something's just not right with this Warriors team. Something's just not right. I know they got Wiseman. I believe he's injured right now. They're probably kicking themselves for not getting LaMelo at number 2. Wiseman's okay, but there's such a clear gap between the skill levels of a Wiseman and a LaMelo. You know, could you imagine LaMelo and Steph Curry in that, like coming off the bench? Could you imagine Steph starting and then LaMelo coming off the bench as the point guard? But, maybe Wiseman will grow into something. Now, last night, Steph Curry scored 53 points. He scored 53 points in a win versus one of the better teams in the West, the Nuggets. All right? So they are trying really hard to play into the playoffs. It's extended this year. There's now 10 teams, I think, on each side that will get into the playoffs. And the Warriors are trying to get a playoff spot. I repeat that. The Golden State Warriors are trying to get a playoff spot. This is crazy to really think about when you consider the legacy of the Warriors. You consider the dynasty that they're trying their hardest to get into the playoffs. But should they? I mean, really, should they try to get into the playoffs? I'm not saying maybe they should throw some games, but I just don't really understand it how, the West is stacked. They're going to work hard to get into the playoffs. I mean, you got the Jazz, you got the Suns, you got the Clippers. And last year we laughed about the Clippers, but they got Rondo now. That's just the West. Of course, you got the Lakers. You got LeBron and AD coming back. And, some people see them as a prospective favorite to win it again. But then what you got going on in the East? You got the 76ers. They're no scrubs. And you got the New Jersey Nets. Now, I know they blew a game recently against, the Lakers, but I just see that as kind of a fluke because the Lakers, they just got blown out by the Knicks. And the Jazz actually lost to one of the worst teams in the Wizards. So, these games in April, you look at trends. You don't look at like one night. Now, I did say earlier that Steph Curry got 53 points, and that's pretty impressive, but I want to speak more about, the Warriors in general and how shocking it is that they are trying to get into playoffs. Again, I can't get my mind around that. But centering around Steph and his expectations for this year, maybe he's trying to get an MVP. It could be said if he gets this team is really not that good. If he gets this team to the playoffs even, he might be in consideration. Probably won't get it, because Joel Embiid and what's that other guy? That other guy, James Harden, James Harden thinks he's the, forerunning for MVP when he's got a case for it. I don't know. Now, Steph's really fun to watch. He is fun to watch nailing those threes, man. He's hitting some of those threes from near the half court line. When he's cooking, he is cooking. This guy literally, like, if he was an NBA Jam, this guy would be the poster for NBA Jam. He's on fire! But you know what? There's things I don't like about Steph Curry. He's kind of a prick. He's kind of immature. There was this one time where, towards the end of a game or a quarter, I think, there was somebody just, going to make like a layup or something like that, and he just comes up behind the person and he blocks them. It's over. This guy's just kind of, going to make a layup, and he just has to go behind this guy and block him. Some of you know what I'm talking about. So he's kind of a prick. He's not a guy that I really root for, but you really can't take away his talent. He's one of the best shooters, if not the best shooter of all time. Now, I just don't know, like I said, about the future of the Warriors. Is he a part of the future of the Warriors? Yeah, I said it. I'll go there. Is it possible? We've seen a lot of people that were really loyal to one team their whole career bounce and go to another team. What if it gets to the point where they barely get into the playoffs this year, Klay comes back next year, maybe he's not 100%, and They're going to be good next year. But the idea and the expectation is when Clay gets back, they're going to be the best team. Well, you're still going to have these other teams that are rising up in the West. You're still going to have, even if they get to the finals, you're still going to have this problem with the Nets. In year two, they're only going to be better, probably. I think they have a one-year coach. He's only going to get better at coaching. So worst case scenario, I think, is maybe they get to the playoffs, go deep into the playoffs every year, and then they don't have any high draft picks, and they can't build for any kind of a future. And the draft picks they get aren't maybe worth, so they can't trade them for stars to help Steph and the Warriors. I mean, just imagine if they had LaMelo and not Wiseman. Imagine the options they would have right now. Imagine how many teams would be clamoring to offload maybe an all-star to get a potential future great player. And he's great. He's really good right now. Potentially great one day in LaMelo. So I think that was a bad move they made in the draft. I get it. They got Wiseman because they had a need to fill, but I'm under the thinking, whether it's football, whether it's basketball, you always draft the best player on the board available to you. You know why? Because you could always trade the best player to get something else you need and something else. That's my Radical Rick tip. You always draft the best player. I don't care about the need. You always draft the best. So, yeah, what do you think about this? Those of you that follow basketball and the Warriors specifically, how do you see this playing out? Do you potentially see Steph Curry leaving the Warriors? I know that sounds crazy, but do you potentially see him leaving to Warriors to maybe join up with LeBron and the Lakers? Hey, I've seen crazier things happen. Now, one last point about this game and this 53-point performance from Curry. Not only did he get 53 points, but it was a bit sweeter because Curry made history. He beat out Wilt Chamberlain to become the all-time point scorer for the Golden State Warriors. Although, to be fair, Wilt Chamberlain probably has a record for conquest of a certain nature. I don't think Curry's ever going to reach that record. You know what I'm saying?